Part 2 of The Broken World, Part 1 down below. I'm currently relaxing in the beach on the Gulf Coast right now. My brother and I drove down to get out of the house. I only live an hour and a half away from the beach. She has requested to redo her timeline since her original was pathetic and I refused to accept it. Again, I don't have any plans that I know of. Anyway, she's at home doing that new timeline right now. I'm not afraid of her doing anything stupid to my things or the house. I expect to be back home early evening and I have a plan going forward for tomorrow and Monday to make sure both parents and her friend's husband are notified. After that I have decided on a few things I want to do to ensure no contact and some peace and quiet. It has quieted down here, so I will try to give some details about last night. She came in and I had her sit at the table and I asked her if she was pregnant. She laughed and said something like not yet, want to work at it. I said no, but I did want an explanation about this, and I just laid the picture of her kissing him on the table in front of her. Of course, there was shock, then she broke down crying. I didn't say anything and just let her cry. Eventually she started apologizing. There were multiple attempts to grab my hand and things like that, but for a long time there was just crying, and I never said anything. She finally began to talk and kept repeating how she loved me. Please don't leave and I am sorry. I was generally getting annoyed, but then she said, I know it looks bad. I immediately stopped her and laid a picture of her walking out of the motel room with him and said, yeah, it does. But this looks worse. And of course, more crying. And she went to the bathroom and I am sure she was throwing up. After about 10 minutes she came back and was a little calmer and she just said, I am sorry, please let's work this out. And I asked why. Why did you do this? And from there it was a lot of I don't know. It didn't mean anything. I was stupid. Sound familiar? She spent the next couple of hours alternating between answering questions and crying. She never denied they had slept together but never gave any indication it was multiple times. I said very little and that seemed to upset her and rattle her a lot. She quickly went through about 15 items. I would ask questions like, did you love him? Did you ever say I love you to him? She answered no to both. I would pause and stare. She would get uncomfortable and start self-analyzing her actions and thoughts. There were some questions I asked and she refused to answer. Like, how many times did you sleep together? Her answer was, it doesn't matter, once was too much. What did you do with him physically? She said I won't answer that. When she did that, I just wrote the question down and went to the next question that popped into my head. Again, I'd ask a question, not respond for a minute or two and not get angry. But any question she would not directly answer I would come back to later. Usually, she would refuse to answer again or deflect. I believe this was that mindset of minimizing to not hurt me further, but in actuality, it was her trying to lessen how bad it reflected on her. Her answer to why she did it was a collection of things that she described as a perfect storm of stupid decision and childish insecurities. She was feeling insecure about her slight weight gain. He always complimented her and it was nice. She said I was gone so much leading up to Christmas, and when I started back at the end of January she felt alone and unwanted. This is the one time my emotions got the better of me and I got mad. We had the discussion about my traveling back in May the previous year. She knew it was going to be busy based on the new contract we picked up, and I told her then if it became a problem, she needed to speak to me and we would make arrangements for her to go with me or at least communicate to ease any troubles it might be causing. And I told her instead you decided to screw somebody else. She also brought up Diana, the travel agent. She never thought I was cheating but was jealous that I would be talking to someone that I felt like I needed to hide from her. But she really just used it to justify what she was doing. I actually believe this part of her explanation up to a point. She's very intelligent but very insecure. Always has been. Not a good enough reason to cheat, just pointing out that I have no problem seeing her slowly build up a small, tiny issue and create this huge problem that was never there. Now understand, what I wrote above is just a very condensed version of a 4-hour-long event. There was a lot more said obviously, but that was the basic results for 4 hours of talking. I checked my recordings and I have really good audio of everything, so I guess if I ever felt the need to torture myself I can relive it over and over again. But there's always a bit. But notice what was left out. There is no mention of her friend, the cheating cheerleader. There was no mention of the meeting while I was at the hospital. There was no mention of the sudden doctor appointments 2 and 4 weeks after they last met. Though I had forgotten about those myself until I received a reminder from someone to ask about them. But she never mentioned them. No mention of how they communicated. And I asked if they communicated outside of the gym. Her answer was no, not really, and let it slide. And no mention of his wife, though I am pretty sure to this day she has no idea he was married. And I did not tell her last night either. I did not bring up divorce until well into the evening. I just decided to wait for some reason. There was a lull in the crying and talking and she began to talk about her dream of us having a family. At some point during that tangent, she asked me why I asked if she was pregnant earlier, and I responded, to know whether or not I'll need to prepare custody papers along with filing for divorce. And that's when she realized where I was really at with this, that we are not staying married. It was the first time I mentioned divorce out loud. This may sound petty and even sadistic, but I honestly don't care. She has not suffered a fraction of the emotional pain I have over the last few days. Well, after divorce was finally mentioned and out in the open, she started all the ways she could fix this. We can go to counseling. She would do anything I wanted. She would work hard for the rest of our lives to make it up to me, etc. It was getting late. I had plans on her leaving to go to her mother's home, but she was just relentless, so finally I said, okay, you do a detailed timeline of your affair. Write down dates, what was said, how you felt when he complimented you, what you were thinking, dates and time of each physical encounter including position. Did you use protection, etc. Detail every physical meeting. Did anyone else know about the affair? If so, who are they? A very detailed list that she needed to write out. And I wanted it on the table by 8 a.m. the next morning. She could sleep in one of the other rooms. And finally, she was not to touch me in any way, shape, or form. I do want to say that this is by far the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I really was afraid I would just not do it. When she walked in the door, I just saw this beautiful, loving woman that I had seen so many times. But as soon as she hugged me and kissed me, I knew right then I had to have this talk. I cannot see myself having anything close to a relationship with her again. Down the road and years later, maybe we can be friendly toward each other, but not now. Obviously, she failed miserably on the timeline. I'll try to get a second post up to catch you folks up on today's interactions and ultimately what we agreed on earlier tonight. But it's been a long 24 hours. We have one credit card each. Neither has a balance. I canceled them Friday. The bank account is easy. My paycheck from our company will no longer be placed in the joint account. I have exact balances for our savings and checking. If she chooses to take the money all for herself before we properly separate it, then I will let my attorney handle it. I will open a new account Monday and direct all of my income into that account. The timeline matters to me. It is joint and she can take whatever she wants without any repercussions. Right now, it's just not a priority to me. I'm not being flip about the money, it's just not something I care about today. Monday I will probably start moving half over to my new account and I will tell her what I'm doing. As a matter of fact, I'll just go over the finances with her in the morning. The next morning, I made sure I showered and dressed for breakfast. I had decided I was not going to appear defeated or beaten down in front of her. While I was showering, I decided I was going to go in and walk past her and the timeline if it was there and start preparing breakfast, and that was exactly what I did. I even asked her if she would like me to fix her some also. So, after preparing and eating breakfast, I picked up the timeline she had written and started reading it out loud to her. It was very apparent it was a rehash of her non-answers and promises from the night before. When I started reading, I guess she got nervous and started cleaning up. After the first read through, all 4 pages of it, I started making notes on it. I literally took an ink pen and started circling items and writing lie in big letters. And where's the details? She was a little angry, I could tell. I told her that this was not a timeline. It was one big lie. She's wasting time and is not serious when she claims she's willing to do anything she can to help me get through this. I told her to pack her things and leave. She asked me why she had to do this, and I told her because she will cheat again if she does not face what she has done, and I needed this to start healing. I then began pointing out what she left out. I said, you left out the first time you kissed him in his office in the gym. You left out the fact you went to a motel with him on 4 different occasions. And you left a lot more. She keeps asking how I know all of this. I told her it didn't matter, just pack and go. She continued saying she wanted to try and was just so ashamed. Same old, same old. I told I was leaving for the day. I would be back by early evening. She could get her timeline done with everything and all the detail I required, or she needed to be gone. If she was here when I got back and the timeline was not done as I requested, the way I requested, I would have the police remove her. She agreed. I then got the fight photo out and handed it to her and said, I especially wanted to know why you were arguing with your lover in a parking lot while I was in the hospital. Then I left for my brother's house and somehow wound up on the beach this afternoon. When I got home, she had a new timeline, and I will have to say it was a lot better. She hit on all the details, her friend and how she helped to enable her, did not mention the friend's affair, and she detailed each encounter. Not going into that, but they did use protection. And as far as she is aware, there were no pictures, videos taken. She absolutely refused to send him any nudes, but she admitted he was persistent in asking. Don't really believe this, but don't care. They use an app called Band. I am familiar with it. I have used it for online gaming communities. She uninstalled it the night of her birthday, and that was why she was calling him Monday instead of messaging him on the app. She used a throwaway email address, and in her panic Monday, more on that coming, she could not remember it and he would not answer her calls. The fight was about me. When she was contacted that I was in the hospital and that someone had beaten me up, she automatically assumed it had been him. One of the tools in his love tool chest was bragging about being in fights. He was a well-built, muscled-up guy, and people always wanted to pick fights with him to prove how tough they were. Being the good guy, he would ignore them, but sometimes he couldn't, and then he would just beat the hell out of them. She literally groaned when we were talking about this. She just hung her head and said, "My God, that is the dumbest thing I have ever heard," and I fell for it. Anyway, so, the first chance she got, she started calling him to find out if he did it. He was ignoring her calls, but she was leaving voicemails. Finally, she threatened to come to the gym, cause a scene if he didn't answer her calls. He called her back and said he'd meet her the next day. Wouldn't answer her questions, so I am guessing he just wanted to see her again. Tuesday, she called him right after the nurse came in and said I would probably go home after the doctor saw me later. She said she needed to go get me a set of clothes and then called him and met him in the parking lot. She kept screaming at him, "Did you do it? Did you do it?" He denied it and said he could prove it if he had to, but she didn't believe him. She eventually just left, and it was only after the police came by later that day to follow up that she realized he probably did not have anything to do with it, though she admits that it took some time for her to really believe he was not involved. And I want to emphasize, he was not involved. Those are the big ones she finally came clean on. But there was still the friend's ongoing affair and the doctor's visits. After a little break, I told her I appreciated the timeline. It is the first thing positive she has done all weekend. But I need to know why you had to go to the doctor twice within a month of the last time she had slept with him. This prompted another crying session. Honestly, I thought she was going to say she was pregnant and had to go back and have an abortion. I was expecting anything. Well, it seems she developed a persistent burning when she urinated. It would not go away. She began to experience a discharge, and after looking up the symptoms, she was afraid she had an STD. She made the appointment with her gynecologist and she tested positive for gonorrhea. Yep, she did. I asked her how if they used a condom, and she admitted that during one encounter he had slipped off the protection without her knowing it. He was behind her, she said. She is guessing that's when she caught it. He claimed the protection broke, but she knew it didn't and he had slipped it off. The second visit was to get the results of a complete STD screening. She was afraid to have them call her or mail anything, so she begged her doctor to set up a return visit. Now remember, because I was not really fully back to normal for almost a week or so, sleeping together was not a priority, so thankfully I was not exposed. Later it was, I'm on my period, which was true at one point, and I'm not really into bonding right now, but we can do other things. This lasted until she completed her antibiotic treatment. Anyway, that is the doctor's visit mystery. So, my wife got pounded by a diseased guy. Yay me. I brought up her friend, and again I told her I appreciated her honesty in telling me about her involvement. I did have some harsh words about her keeping this woman in her life, though. I then asked her why she did not mention the friend's affair. She says she did not think it was any of our business. I told her that is your problem right there. You were just as bad a friend as she was. If she was doing drugs, something that was destroying her life, and would affect her family's life, would you not talk to her and try to put her on the right track? And if she would not listen, would you not let her husband know so he can make an informed decision on what is best for him and his family? She kind of got it. So, I pointed out how devastating cheating is and its massive repercussions. I told her your affair is destroying our family. It is no more. Now her friend's affair played a role in allowing you to justify the act that ultimately destroyed our family. That is not all. Your cheating also helped to destroy OM's marriage. She said he is not married. I looked at her and said, where the hell do you think I got these photos? His wife hired a PI to follow him around. She had no clue he was married. Of course, more crying at that point. We then had a very serious talk about our families and the immediate future. I will say it was a good talk. I told her we had to tell our parents. She said she thought of that earlier and it was just something she could not stand the thought of. She loves my family, and my family adores her. Same with her family. She said she feels like she needs to be the one to tell each of them, and asked if I would go with her to do it. I said I would, but only if she would go with me to tell her friend's husband. She was hesitant at first but agreed. So tomorrow we will go to my parents' home and tell them. Then her dad's and then her mom's. She will then stay at her mom's house. If I can arrange it, we plan on meeting the friend's husband sometime Monday. She will move out permanently on Sunday. She agrees to have all her stuff out within 2 weeks from Monday, and she will email me a list of joint items she would like to keep. I will look over it, and if there is a disagreement, we will work it out as best we can. After we tell the other husband, I have requested she not contact me except through text, email, and only about items pertaining to the divorce. I need some physical distance, and I think it would help her as well. I told her my lawyer will contact her when the papers are ready, and she can either pick them up at their office or have them sent to her own attorney. There were a few other items, but that's pretty much it. She is sleeping here tonight, and in the morning, we will have one more talk to make sure each of us has said our piece. I have no idea if it will stay this cordial. I have no idea if the next couple of days will work out like we decided tonight. I know I need to get away, though. I need some distance from her, the house, my job, everything. I am really overwhelmed. Tonight, as I have typed out these 2 long posts, I have been more emotional than I have been all weekend. I am hurting, and I want it all to go away. I'm tired. I'm going to bed. I'm outside in the backyard enjoying a sunny southern day while she is inside packing. I am thinking the beautiful day is a sign of better things to come. Quick recap of our talk this morning, and I'll try to answer some questions that have been posted since last night. She evidently has spent some time researching reconciling and pressed that hard this morning. She is aware there is no staying in this marriage, but she believes that we can reconcile eventually and be a family because I am the one she is meant to be with for the rest of her life. I'm not even going to respond to that. And I got the obligatory, I promise I will not date anyone during this time because she believes this is temporary. And more of the same. I made no commitments either way and just let her talk. Oh, did I mention she has decided not to be with me when we meet with the friend's husband to expose her affair to him? Yeah, the reasoning here is she feels we are interfering and should be dealing with our own problems. I just said okay, I respect that you feel that way, and nothing else. I think she wanted me to tell her whether or not I was still going to tell. But I decided to let that issue lie. She doesn't know I have the texts and don't really need her there to back me up. And after that immediately wanted reassurance that I was going to be there when she tells our parents. I told her yes, I made a promise and I keep my promises. Just to clarify, I do not believe anything she has said 100%. I think I have about 80% of the proof, but the past 2 days have been for me. Just to get answers, to learn what to look out for in future relationships, and to be brutally honest to screw with her. And yes, we discussed finances, and for what it's worth she appears to have no issues with the initial separation of finances, but I am not naive and I'm sure somebody will start whispering in her ear. And that cooperation will become more contentious. My attorney advised me that I can ask her to move out, and if she at any time becomes violent, force her to leave, albeit temporarily, by calling the police. My name is on the deed, but it would be in my best interest to ask politely, and if she agrees then politely assist. If she says no then shut up and make the best of it. There is nothing that stops me from changing the locks after she agrees to move out. I can be required to give her key if she asks, but only if she asks. Again, it is about being strategic, not vindictive. I will take what I can get and do the best with it until I can change it. As for throwing her things out and such, I have no desire to do that. It would be silly and pointless and only make it more difficult in the long run. I have reason to believe that she gave him X at the gym, but no direct proof. That is why I never brought it up to her or in the thread. There is a lot of information in the text between her and her friend that I did not share. Some of ridiculously childish, some of it funny, think steroids and side effects. But again, there was so much in the text I just stuck with what ran parallel with the evidence I already had for the most part. Back from that ordeal, nothing major other than more crying. I'm sure no one would be surprised that my parents, especially my mom, is super pissed. Her parents are embarrassed and hurt, but I'm sure they will support her as they should. My sisters, twins by the way, came in after the fact. One with her new boyfriend. Surprise new boyfriend. Anyway, it went as well as expected. Her demeanor appeared to change as we got closer to leaving. Snappy, even crappy at times. Probably nerves, but it was enough for me to make plan to be at the bank early in the morning. Like at the open. Might as well be as cautious as I can. I plan on meeting G, the friend's husband, tomorrow around lunch where he works. I'll either take him to lunch or just talk to him in the parking lot, but I want to do it quickly and get it over with. If he wants to talk more, I'll suggest he come to the house after work and talk. I can keep the STBX from contacting his wife to warn her. At the same time, they can't keep me from talking to him at some point. Spoke to the OBS and we are meeting Thursday evening for a nice meal. My treat to express my thanks. She's been a great help. I also have been thinking over what to do next. I need to get away, I think. My house does not feel like a home. My mind is cluttered. At some point I'm afraid it will be too much. I spoke with my parents and they agreed to supervise STBX coming to pick up her things. It's quiet here tonight, so I'm going to take advantage of it and get myself a nice relaxing full night's sleep. Of course, she will try to get sympathy from other people. I don't care. My parents have seen the truth and the evidence. I have no children with her. Our friends will either believe me or not. Those that care to know the truth will ask and I will tell. Show. Nothing else I really care about. What can she counter and undermine? A divorce. She can draw it out, but that's about it. She can't get the house. At worst she will get a payout of about equal to a year's salary. And half of our shared retirement. Nothing that's not fair if you think about it. I mean, take out the cheating and say we just could not get along. It would an extremely equitable split. If I could change anything, I would have opened a new account and moved half the savings in checking Friday, but live and learn. She's been in survival mode all weekend and now she's embarrassed and hiding. Next, I expect lashing out. But I believe there will be a day she understands the destruction she caused. And she will be fine. I think as betrayed spouses we narrow our view naturally when it comes to how we see our betrayers, but after reading your question and really thinking about it, I think she will recover and I'm willing to bet she will be a better partner, just not to me. I'll address the assault again. There have been some good points brought up, so I'll say right off the bat I'll check with OBS. I'll ask specifically about that day since I was only given information on the specific days my STBX was seen with him. It's my understanding OBS was to have him followed only during work hours and specific times on the weekends when he claimed to have something special to do or a place he was going without her. And that lasted only that first day due to gathering evidence of him meeting my wife. After that she just had him followed during the time he worked at the gym. The pie at some point early uncovered something else that I cannot divulge here right now, and he continued at her request the surveillance for another week. After wife broke it off, right up until the mandate to close gyms. He was served divorce papers and at a later date he was arrested for the illegal activity. I do not have the time frame between divorce and arrest. I have tried to stay away from this because of the continuing divorce and legal matters, as well as by OBS request. I'll list my reasonings again why I do not think he was involved. It was not the first assault of that type in that area with the same motive. He was under surveillance by a retired police officer. I doubt he would have allowed it to go on without interference. No upside for him. He had gotten what he wanted, and needed nothing from me further to strike his ego. And since I have stated the criminal issue he had, wanted attention to his illegal activity. And I'm guessing at the time of the assault, 7 a.m. roughly, he was either at home or at the gym, which would put him with OBS or being followed. But I will check. I want to say I would almost rather go through another weekend like I just had than to tell a man I have proof his wife is a cheater. Friend is a good guy, hard worker, a mechanic that is well on his way to opening his own independent shop in the near future. Married high school sweetheart right out of high school. Divorced 2 years later and then married this one, we'll call her Nat, about 7 years ago, I think. 2 kids, girl about 6 and boy just turned 4. For some reason I thought they had 3. Maybe he has a child from previous marriage. Nat indicated in her text this has been going in for a while. Only had maybe a dozen texts mentioning the guy, but she works with him. He's older, he's married, he has children. No other details other than his first name. Gave the info to him in the parking lot where he worked. He indicated he knew who he was. Guy is really shaking up. I also gave him some advice, and told him to call if he needed to talk. I actually recommended he not tell her he knew for a while and consult a lawyer no matter what he decided to do. And I recommended he tell her about my situation first just to see her reaction. Money has been moved over. Sent text to STBX and recommended she create new accounts herself. She has been strangely quiet. No calls, texts, or emails. I'm thinking somebody is talking to a lawyer today. On a personal note, I had horrible nightmares last night. The type I had the weeks after I was assaulted. I also woke up in the floor. I didn't fall. I think at some point I got up and laid down on the floor. There was also evidence I did some sleepwalking. A couple of things moved I knew had been moved. Anyone ever experienced these things? Man, I hate everybody involved in this crap right now. I've spent the last 4 hours watching a grown man's world collapse and feeling like crap for the role I played. Jay called around 2 this afternoon and said he's sorry but can he come over? He can't work or barely talk. He's just a shell. He cried. I teared up. He finally went home after we were able to talk a bit. He wants to wait a few days. Get his bearings. I don't blame him. It didn't help my STBX started blowing up my phone. I silenced it, but when I looked at it after he left there was 30 text messages. I don't care to even think about reading them. My sisters are headed over with some pizza and board games. Something we used to do when they were little. They are the most unique set of twins you'll ever meet. Jay and his wife have gone dark. She's an avid Facebook and Instagram poster, so even though I don't do the social media thing myself, I do have accounts. She has not posted anything since Monday afternoon, which is unusual. Other than that, I have not heard anything from him. My STBX was vocal about losing not only her marriage but a friend. This was the text she sent Tuesday morning. One of over 100 I have received since Monday afternoon while Jay was here. How much will this cost me? I have already lost you and my friend. Please talk to me. I ignored it. I'll let you folks see the obvious flaw in this line of thinking. Honestly, I will probably break down and talk to her after she gets the divorce papers. At some point I just need to face her again, and since we live in a relatively small city, I'll run into I am sure. Might as well get it out of the way. My mom reached out to her yesterday and set up arrangements to be here for the STBX to pick up more of her items tonight while I am having dinner with the OBS. Looking forward to that. She's a fun person, and as I mentioned in one of my previous posts, has overcome a lot. Sleep has gotten better after upping workouts and forcing better eating habits. No sleepwalking or restless nights right now. I have a doctor's appointment today to get checked out. Real quick update. It's 3 a.m. here. I just got home. Yes, OBS and I have been together and talking since around 7 p.m. yesterday evening. After eating we went to her home and spent all night talking. Just talking. Though the opportunity is most definitely there and there was no ambiguity. Straightforward, no games. A really strong and fun lady. But she understands where I am right now. Maybe later. Probably. Highly likely. She told me the latest on OBS and I told her about here. She laughed at the thought OBS could be involved in the assault because, as she puts it, he's got the balls of a squirrel when it comes to physical confrontation. Anyway, she gave me permission to say his legal, criminal issues are due to steroids. Yeah, kind of cliche, but that's it. His clientele was allegedly not just adults. On my STBX, we talked about her. OBS gave me her insight and it helped. She knows STBX was not the only woman OM had an affair with from the gym. Looking back, she has at least 4 others she is positive about. She also did not catch any STD. They had stopped sleeping together about 6 months prior, and she knew about the gonorrhea only after discovery during her divorce. She also stated he used prostitutes on more than one occasion during the final months of the marriage. My opinion of my STBX is she's not a bad person at heart. I think she made bad decisions based on some personal character flaws, and unfortunately, they cost her dearly. I am willing to bet she'd never cheat again. I'm not going to test that theory, but I really believe that. She picked up the boxes I packed as well as took a few joint things I'm okay with her having. I noticed an email from her that at a quick glance had a list. I'm assuming it's the list of additional items she took. I'll look at it closer later. I'll also speak to my mom later today and hear what took place while she was here. Doctor's visit went well. I'm holding off on any meds for sleeping for right now. Tests all completed or in the works as far as STDs. And 6 it going to lie really missing physical bonding right now. Is there a such thing as phantom hysterical bonding? And last but not least, the papers are ready for her to pick up. I requested the lawyer to send her notice via email that she can pick them up by Wednesday of next week, notify them of the name of her attorney, and they will get sent to him, or they will be served by a deputy process server. I'm going to bed. My comment: give yourself distance and no contact when you can. You are now ending a business contract with someone who embezzled from you. There is no need to do it in person when you have intermediaries. If your STBX finds out about you too before the D is final, it could complicate things. If she finds out afterwards, get ready for a meltdown of epic proportions. Imagine her finding out that her husband, who she is still pining away for, is hooking up with the wife of her former lover. Damn.